Welcome to the Entertainment Rants Podcast, your number one opinion source for all things entertainment. Join host Marco Mazzola as he sounds off on the latest movies, TV, music, gaming, comic books, and more. Now, here's the man of the hour, Marco Mazzola.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Entertainment Rants Podcast. I'm, as always, your host, Marco Mazzola, and today I have with me a very special guest. His name is Zach, and is it Barrick? Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah.
Good. Just want to make sure I got that right. So, Zach, tell us what show you're working on right now. I got a chance to watch the first season, and I'm really excited about it. So, and I know the second season is coming out.
Yeah.
Am I right?
So, Dead End Paranormal Park. It's on Netflix. Season 2 just came out. It's a really wonderful show about, kind of the trials of being a teen paralleled with the trials of working at a demonic theme park, or a theme park that happens to be a portal to hell. We've all been there. And, it's something I'm super proud of. It's very sort of reflective of, the world and its own twisted way. So yeah,
it's the twisted part I love. I love that twisted aspect of the show. It's really fun. It harkens. There's a lot of, there's some shows out there right now that really grab that sort of twist going on. And I really, I hadn't saw much of it. I'd heard of it because I love Netflix. I'm all over Netflix. So I checked it out. And then once you guys got in touch with me to do the interview, I dug right in. And now I've just been pointing to everybody, like, you have to watch this show. It's hysterical. It's really funny. And you play Barney.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Barney's the main character in my eyes, right? So tell me a little bit about
I think when you have like a really strong ensemble, which, biased, but I think we do, it's so cool to see how everybody plays together and there's the sort of collective, center of the show. But at the same time, I will say, I think the special thing about Barney, and probably a lot of the reason that you feel, that it comes, comes naturally to say he's the lead is, he's the audience surrogate, and I think such a relatable kind of character, and it is also just very deeply cool to say, I'm the main character in the show, so
it's a great cast. I'm looking through the IMDb. Obviously, it's an amazing cast of people on the show. So, props to everybody on there. The voice talents are incredible. So it's just, and everybody just makes the show just more fun. Even though it's got sort of that darker tone, it's it can be very lighthearted in its way. So it's just very accessible, I think, to everybody. Is there would you say there's a main audience that it looks for?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a young adult kid show. It is intended for kids.
Yeah.
And there's a temptation that even I have to say young adult first because it feels more valid. But, I think that's like tough. It's something I'm trying to like push back against, that instinct, because kid stuff has value and it's like some of the first stuff we watch. So it's some combination. You know what I mean? I think it is for everybody. I mean, the truth is animation is so it's such a thing that everybody likes.
Yeah.
I'm a huge animation fan. Since I was a kid. I just really, really enjoy watching animated programs and I was an early adult animation fan. Like, I think there was some aspect of I just want to feel like a big kid. I have 3 older brothers. But it really did make me appreciate how age kind of fluid animation is, that there was so much to be had in the shows that were meant for older people for a young person to watch, because a lot of those are meant to be like tongue in cheek about the world and then, still kind of accessible, and then vice versa, where like the kid shows really seem to traverse time, and be accessible to adults.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a huge animation fan. I mean, I watched a lot of Looney Tunes when they first came out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
I'm that old. So, and I've never stopped, between Family Guy and all the other shows that are out
Yeah.
there. It definitely plays. Like I watched Tiny Toons when it first came out, and I
Yeah.
still watch it today. I'll still go back and watch old episodes. You know what I mean? And they
Yeah.
do. A lot of them are so timeless. And
Mhm.
I feel like this one is going to be the same thing. You can go back and watch it years later, whether you're a kid or an adult, which I really appreciate when it comes to animation. We've definitely broken down the barriers and the walls on
Yeah.
animation, where it was just always just for kids. And I think around the time of like the Batman animated series, when they said,
Mhm.
okay, we can actually take this stuff really seriously, and it
Yeah.
can be for anybody. You have your Rick and Morty's, you have all these other different shows where it's so accessible to everybody, and it's okay for an adult to watch an animated show.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. Well, and that it feels really important that we talk about it, because one thing recently, so Guillermo del Toro was talking about how animation is really important, and it's like it is cinema and all that stuff, and I think and he, I like that a lot because I love seeing people say that, but also in the same breath, I'm like, you know, it doesn't have to be like prestige, stop motion, and that's not a jab at that. Some of my favorite stuff I like. Grew up The Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, I'm a Jewish kid, and that was one of my favorite movies on earth. I still sometimes when they reshow it in the theater, I'll go, watch it, and so a huge fan. But I like the idea that any style can have value, 2D and 3D and 2D with 3D elements. I don't know that there's so much variety in what animation looks like that it's so silly to assign more value to some of it than other, and people should be allowed to like what they like.
Yeah.
And the writers and animators and actors that work truly, and I mean, as an actor, I can comfortably say that what the animators and writers do is significantly harder
Yeah.
and more arduous and less valued. And I just think animation sometimes gets the short end of the stick.
Right, because it was always
Particularly
so
if it's
long seen as a
heartwarming.
kid's
Right.
it was so long seen as a
Exactly.
kid medium,
Yeah.
right? But we're
And
definitely living
why
in a
why is
wonderful
it
time
so
where that's
bad?
no longer the case.
Yeah, and why is it so bad? Sorry to talk over you. I'm so
No, it's
sorry.
okay.
Why is it so bad to like value what kids like? Like why is that so hard for us to go, oh, it's like a kid likes this, that has value, or like a young person has this, that has value, so and then also just like it is something that appeals to adults, and there shouldn't be sort of, not that it's horribly hindering anybody, but like there shouldn't be a stigma against liking a thing that is like youthful, you know.
Definitely, definitely. So, tell us how you got started with acting.
Yeah.
What led up to it?
So when I was like a kid, I really liked it. I did two plays at our park center, which like the community kind of
Mhm.
theater vibe. I did one about pirates, and I did one about chess tournament during the time of disco. Really so specific.
That's pretty cool.
Like it almost feels like I'm throwing words and seeing what sticks. Um, and so I really liked it. And then like really far between experiences because I didn't really do it until then. I went to high school, and I went to school in Virginia that was pretty much, it was all girls, and I was just like a boy in that sea of things, like in sort of a complex way as a trans
Mhm.
person. But I got to play boys, and I got to have these really big parts, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much fun. And Then I went to college, and I was like, I gotta get a practical degree. So I started studying music business, and I was miserable. Um, it was just like can't sit still anyway, and then being kind of made to sit still for a degree that I had no interest in was just not working. I started taking accounting and then like cried under a staircase.
Oh,
No, like I'm not cut out for this. Like maybe I'm not a college kid.
as many accountants probably do.
Yes, yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, and I was just like, this isn't it. So I met a really wonderful person who worked for a transgender talent agency just through like an event at school. And through my freshman year roommate had a friend who posted on Facebook that was like, "Hey, we're looking for this type of actor." So it was so informal. Like I didn't have any connections really. Um, and I kind of reached out to her and I got to go for this first audition. And then after that, I would bother her here and there with an email, and she would every once in a while, because she didn't have anybody in my particular niche at the time on her roster, she would like send me out for things, and it was not frequent. And then one day she was like, "Okay, you really got to go to this one. It's for Spider-Man." And I was like, "Yes, I can understand why you have urgency in your voice." Um, so yeah, and then I just went, and then things sort of just never stopped rolling from there. And I mean, minus the world on pause bit of it,
Right.
but yeah, it's been sort of wild since then. I just got kind of stupid lucky. Um, and I as much as I say like it's not something my family has a lot of connections in or anything, and that I feel very lucky.
Mhm.
I also acknowledge like I went to like college in LA and could afford to do that, and like
Right.
on some level that's a connection.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I got into it.
Cool. Awesome. So let's go dive into Spider-Man, because I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of listeners are going to want to hear what the
Yeah.
experience was like on that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a cool experience because, and I'm super grateful for it because I got like tossed in the deep end, um, and I had to like pick up on I hadn't really been on many sets. I had interned at a production company, which by the way was what I was doing when I got the audition for it. So like I only had a few weeks, um, and yeah, and I just kind of had to figure it out. But I had really good friends who I'm still super close with from the movie, and so I didn't totally have to do it by myself. Um, and it was just really cool. Like it was basically getting to play pretend on like the biggest scale possible.
Right.
You know, Sometimes it felt very much like what it was. We'd be in front of these enormous green screens, and it was like, I know what we're doing. we're doing, and then sometimes we'd be on the Tower Bridge running, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." It was all very cool, but it was yeah, it was I think an extension of what I said, which is like, I don't know, there's value in the youthfulness of things, and
Yep.
it was very much that.
So, what was the audition process like for it?
Yeah, so I got that call and I was like, "Okay, I'll go." And I shaved my face so I would look age appropriate, and
Right.
ran over there, and I was in such a hurry that I went upstairs in the building. Sarah Finn casting does a lot of the casting, and for Marvel, and so I run upstairs and I'm sitting there and I start like looking around, and every guy in the room is tall and blonde. And I was like, huh, okay. And I go in and I start doing the lines, and they're like, "Oh, that's not the correct scene." And I was like, "Oh." And then I showed them the email and they were like, "Okay, this happens all the time. That is downstairs." Very confusing. Go ahead. And so I run downstairs. Thankfully, I wasn't late. Got there with a lot of time. Went in, and then did my audition with like two of the kindest people. Um, and they were really lovely, and pushed for me once they really enjoyed my audition. And yeah, I don't know. From there, it was just kind of, out of my hands. But I remember being like, okay, you really gotta like do a good job because it's Spider-Man. And I was like, that's not good advice to give yourself. Like just saying that isn't anything. But it stuck. Like it was weirdly like, okay, I'm doing a good job then. you know?
Going for it, going all out. And
Yeah.
how long were you on set for that?
3.5 months, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, we got there at the beginning of July. Yeah, and we wrapped in October, mid-October, I think, or late October. So yeah, about 3.5 months.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you get to do any of the sort of like premiere stuff or any of that with it once the movie came out?
Yeah, I got to do my first red carpet, which was a hell of a red carpet. But it was so funny because I was such an amateur that I got dropped off in the wrong spot, and I had to like, and it was on Hollywood Boulevard, and like the street was nuts. So we had to like walk through like the worst crowd of people, and I'm in my like suit. And eventually got there obviously, and I got to do some really cool interviews. Yeah, it was neat to get to just talk. And surreal, because it's a bit part. Like, it wasn't like ever meant to be this huge thing, and that's such a thing that actors do in their career. You do
Mhm.
these little roles. Uh, and if you're dumb lucky like I was, you do it in a Marvel film. And but then there's this layer of, when you exist in an identity that isn't often on camera, it feels like this huge deal. And I'm and you're like, "Oh, it's a little sad that it has to be, that these little parts are such a big deal." But then also I'm really glad it's happening at all. And so it was surreal to like talk in depth about my experience when I knew I was just like, I'm just a little part. But it was also very cool. And it showed me how much it meant to people, because even that was such a huge win, and I got a lot of messages.
Well, like they say, there's no small parts, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome. All right, cool. So, I see that you also did a podcast series called the College Tapes.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's this really wonderful series that is a spin-off of the Bright Sessions, which is like a wildly popular um narrative podcast. And Lauren Shippen sort of headed it, and it's like this like sci-fi world that is. And the Bright Sessions was this originally this it was like therapy sessions with kids who have like superpowers, basically, who are like struggling with them, particularly because the nature of the powers can be kind of complex. So like one of the main characters, Caleb, has like basically like can like it's about like emotions or whatever, like empathy and stuff. Like he can feel emotions and kind of like know what people are feeling, and that's such a unique kind of take on a
Mhm.
superpower, I think. Um and so the college tapes was an extension of that, and it was the college life of the kids that had been, doing these therapy sessions that were, you know, and it was a really fun series to do because similar to Dead End, it was about kind of kids going through kid things, but then having this added experience of like a supernatural event. And there was like cults and like old, like old societies that like lived in the depths of like old schools. And um yeah, I don't know, it was neat to work on. It was very fun.
Sounds awesome.
And
It really does. It
yeah,
sounds super interesting. And
yeah.
can we find that everywhere, like podcasts, like Apple and Spotify and
um
all that? Or
yeah, I actually believe so. So it was originally just on Luminary, but I believe since then it has been
okay,
released
all right.
in many podcast platforms like Apple and
Cool.
such.
I'm gonna make sure I put some links to some of the stuff in show notes when we publish. So we're sure that's
Nice.
out there for people. So definitely. All right. So let's talk about Dead End, since that's what we're working on right now. How
Yeah.
did you get that role?
Really, really great agents. So Sam Frischman and Pat Brady were sort of the head of that effort. And they basically, Sam got this audition and was like, "Hey, so you are perfect for this. It is like uncanny." To the point where like sometimes people will be like, "Was the character based on you?" And I'm like, "No, he's just really relatable, and I'm kind of boring." And he's still fascinating. I'm not saying the character's boring, but like I fit into it because like he's a real person,
Mhm.
and I'm like just like some guy, and that those things really go together. And so so yeah, I went out for it, and it was pretty wonderful. The audition felt really good. Then I got a call back, and I was like, I am reading every inch of these comics before, because I need to know this guy inside and out. And I just like fell in love with him. I was like, oh, he's kind of dumb. Same, you know. um, and I was just like, I gotta get this. Like I've been dying since starting this journey to play someone that was a little selfish sometimes, a little um dumb, a little naive, and very hopeful and very outgoing, and you just don't get handed stuff like that all the time, regardless of identity as an actor, but certainly not as a trans person, because it is so narrow and what people consider interesting, quote unquote. It can often be like about violence or what have you, and yeah, and then so I gave it my all, and the truth is, I think on some level, it was in the stars anyway because our showrunner Hamish Steele, who wrote the comics, and I saw an article that called him Dead End Boss, and it made me laugh. So I'm gonna say Dead End Boss Hamish Steele. He yeah he had seen I did like a talk that was online, and he had seen it, and was sort of like, oh, that's what Barney's like, and he's that guy's funny. So I think I had a mild extra edge from being a like public orator. I say that as though that's what I am. I make some funny comments on a stage, talk about what it's like to be trans. But yeah, so yeah, so it was sort of all kismet.
Excellent. So, what is the goal for you, for Zach? What is your, obviously acting, voiceover work, still want to do voiceover work. Anything else? Directing, writing?
Yeah, so I have some stuff in the works. I have a really wonderful writing partner who has similar goals to me, which is kind of just to make stuff that is pretty intrinsically about uh without it being like heavy or
We got you back.
awesome. I'm so sorry. I don't really know what happened.
That's okay. I can edit that whole section out. Don't worry about it. So we're talking about your writing and your writing partner.
Yeah. So yeah, we just want to make stuff that's like um about the experiences of identity, but like maybe not so heavy handed. The balance of not so heavy handed and also like not entirely one long metaphor, and I think that's just like through humor and
Mhm.
um genre fiction, but so we really want to make horror movies, and we want to make them like campy and goofy and like scary as hell, and we want that to be the focal point, and
Right.
everything else, if you're a good enough writer, comes from like dialogue, like there's a way to make something queer that is just like, this is how my queer friends talk, and we don't have to get into the like coming out of it all, you
Right.
know so that's the goal. Not that those stories aren't important, they're just done to death, and
No, I
and
think
and
you're right. I
so
think they're important in a massive degree, but I think you catch a wider audience if you're not shoving it, but it's in there so people can pick up on it, people can understand what's happening, but you're not boom, boom, boom in people's face about it. Because I think certain
right.
people who need to hear that get turned off, but they really should be able to listen and love the story and embrace it in a
Yeah,
better
and
way.
I think yeah, I think that there's a level of needing that there is an audience for things that are so like where it is in your face, and I think that like that has value and is really important, and in the same breath, like yeah, like if you're making art for everybody, there's a lot of value to making it accessible.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of the reasons I love comic books is like they sometimes in like older ones, like they'll just explain who the characters are in dialogue in the most heavy-handed way. They'll
Yeah.
be like, yes, and this is this character, and you're like, this is so goofy, but it's because it was for kids originally, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think there's sort of a translation to adulthood that needs to happen, where sometimes you need to put things in a way that is digestible, and it's not because of like shame or respectability, but it's because of like there's a really fun way to have a conversation, and sometimes like the laziest writing is like, this is what this means,
Yeah.
and that there's a way to write something really beautiful by just like capturing what the world actually looks like.
Mhm.
um and that's what we want to do for sure, is like just have the dialogue sort of speak to the community by being honest to what like those conversations look like, without, because I don't sit in a circle with my friends and go, here are all, like, here's a list of my identities and what they all mean. Like nobody does that.
Right.
And that's so much of what I audition for, is like, this is how my hormones are like such a problem, or like, let me, what's the story of the week to progress the main character of the show that is like a little bit about my identity. And it's like what's real and true, and one of the reasons I love Dead End is that I am like a little dumb, and that is more a part of my day than being trans is often. It just doesn't mean I'm not proud of it or that it's something I don't wear proudly, that I
Sure.
don't say with my chest. It's just that like it would be insane for me to start every day going, I'm trans, and then I'm shouting it to everyone I meet. That's just not how life works.
Right.
Um, for the most part, at least. So yeah, I think that is the kind of thing I want to do is I want to write things that are um fascinating and scary and sometimes drama and but that are really good at capturing what like real people are like in like funny and campy ways. So we're working on a horror piece right now. We have like some cool coming of age stuff, which we thought would be like kind of a unique thing to capture certain identities about, because there's lots of coming of age films about like young men and young women who are just like kind of like the every person. And that it would be fun to do it about some weirdos, some like weirdo coming of age films for the freaks.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of the goal, is to be able to do stuff like that. And yeah, we got some stuff cooking.
Awesome. Super, super. All right, so let's get to know you a little bit more. So it's an entertainment show that we do,
Yeah.
and we're always talking about TV and movies and things like that. So we always like to ask our guests, like, what are you into? What are you watching right now? What some of the things you like.
Okay, I'm gonna expose myself just a tad. I'm a pretty big anime fan. Um, I have been watching. So this fall has been pretty packed for me in terms of what just happens, that a lot of the shows I watch have come back. So Spy Family, which I really love. It's like some just like borderline slice of life and borderline action show that like meet really wonderfully in the middle. It makes me laugh out loud every time. It's the most I feel like I'm watching a kid's show, but it is like still just like a very like age ambiguous show, or like age fluid. Um, and when I'm watching it, I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And it's like delightful and heartwarming. And it's still like an action packed anime. Um, and Chainsaw Man, okay, that's the one I'm like currently like really like super jazzed about. So I read the manga for the first part and wept and was like, this is the best thing I've ever read in my life. Um, and the show has like done nothing but meet my expectations thus far. The animation is cool. The character is like exactly how I imagined him. The voice acting is a lot of fun. So I mean, early days. Who knows what'll happen, or if it'll be able to maintain it. But if they stick to the original, story, it was so beautiful. And I heard someone online say like the violence in it is kind of like Kafka-esque, where it's like
Mhm.
really like a mess, like in the manga too. Like sometimes you can't really make sense of it because it's just bodies on bodies, and it looks like this like really crazy
Yeah.
looking creation, but it's like gorgeous. Like there's something, it makes me quite emotional. Like I don't know, something about like looking at it. This like insane thing while this like kid is also coming of age. He's just like a teen boy, like learning about life, and like he's standing on a pile of bodies, and you're like, this is so not what like you should have had in your life. It's like it's really gorgeous. And the thing that makes it really interesting is he's a kid with like very simple dreams, is sort of the premise of the show. I mean, it is obviously he is a chainsaw man, and that is a large detail. But and it's a show about a world where devils are kind of commonplace and are born out of the fears of people, and they're devil hunters. And he sort of you learn early on, he's just like he's never had a chance for friends, or he's never gone to school, and it's kind of heartbreaking. He goes to start this new job, and this guy's like, what, you never went to school? And he's like, no, man. And it's like, oof, so but it's like, but he's like funny and like and relatable, and he sees his dreams as having like loads of value, even though they're like, I want to touch boobs, I want to have jam on my toast, like I want to be able to afford these things, like I want to sleep somewhere warm, um and I want friends. There's this really wonderful line in the second episode, and it's early in the manga as well, where this guy's like, you want to be friends with devils? Like, okay, I know whose side you're really on. And he's like, yeah, if I could, I would, because I never had any friends, you know? So it's a really gorgeous series, and I'm really looking forward to it because the animation is like really going off for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, how about movies? Where do you, how you like Marvel stuff? Obviously, you were in Spider-Man, but
Yeah. I'm super excited for Wakanda Forever. It looks awesome.
yeah,
I think the like Namor stuff is gonna be so cool. Um, the action looks great. Yeah, everything about it, the trailer got me super hyped up. But in terms of what I've seen recently, so I am accumulating a very long list of things I have been meaning to see and plan to see. So I will say, what I'm excited for, is I'm really looking forward to Triangle of Sadness. That looks really interesting and different. I really want to see, in terms of like horror, I'm still behind, so I really want to see X and
yeah.
Pearl, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. But as for what I've watched lately, like in terms of new stuff, the Prey, the like newest Predator movie, and that was one of the most incredible. I mean,
That was
talk about
awesome.
a movie that knows how to pay homage without like slapping you in the face with it. The
Yeah,
like reverse use of the mud, like the like I don't know, it was so brilliant. I was like the whole time I was watching this, I was like, I think I know that I'm like a little slow on the uptake when it comes to like film analysis or like literary analysis, but I was like, this is so cool. And then when I had a second to be like, oh, that was a reference, and like,
yeah,
but like in a really gorgeous way where it sort of transfers the power to these like people with like a really rich culture and like who are often like left out of cinema.
yeah.
Um, it was really neat. I thought it was
The
so
gun reference back to Danny Glover's The Predator 2 was
yeah,
awesome. I thought the cinematography was probably one of the best.
gorgeous. Yeah,
Definitely out of the
amazing.
series, but it was amazing. So I kind of felt almost bad that it didn't get a theatrical release.
Mhm.
Like, imagine seeing that on a big
On
screen.
screen, yeah. Yeah,
And my TV at home is pretty big, but it's not a big, not a movie theater size. That would
yeah,
have been amazing. And I thought she did an amazing job. I know a lot of people were kind of like, being a girl fighting a predator. I thought she was probably one of the best fighters they've ever had
yes.
in any of the series. Like, she held her own and she kicked that thing's ass. I thought it was
Well, and she's
amazing.
brilliant. Like, the, like, essence of, like, these movies feel this way, like, pirate movies, alien movies, like, and The Predator, and I mean, like, literally the Alien franchise. It's, like, about ingenuity and, like, being able to, like, there are certain genres that really lend themselves to, like, how does the protagonist think themselves out of this? And it's, like, horror, but, like, sci-fi horror really lends itself well, and then, like, yeah, pirate movies, and then, like, sometimes, like the Indiana Jones kind of vibe, but, yeah, the way that they have to, like, when you're facing an impossible enemy, like an enemy that is, like, insurmountable, like, all you got is a brain,
Yeah,
Like, that's literally all you're left with. So, it's cool to be like, yeah, she, like, wasn't the strongest fighter, we saw that at the beginning, but,
yeah,
like, that does not a, like, warrior make, you know?
no, definitely not. Now, speaking of Indiana Jones, did you see recently Harrison Ford said he wants the character basically to die with him?
Yeah, I kinda get it, I don't know that I have super strong opinions one way or the other because 'cause I've never played an iconic character
Yeah,
in cinema, but, I imagine there's some level of you put your heart and soul, and this character is deeply attached to who you are, and, it freaks you out to think of it getting I mean, okay, the truth is, like, there's loads and loads of reboots, and some of them aren't good,
right.
and I think it would really bum me out if I spent my life attached to an iconic character and then like the legacy was tarnished. That's probably the fear.
Yeah,
Um, and I kind of get that. And I also don't know. I don't know. I don't have like strong feelings about it other than like I think remakes can like wait a sec and we can make some original stuff and then this doesn't need to be a conversation.
yeah, we talk
Um,
about that all the time on the show.
yeah.
The
Like
reboots, the value. We know it's really about the money.
yeah.
Hopefully they never remake Back to the Future. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
hopefully they don't do the same thing to Indiana Jones. They don't try to reboot. As much as I love Chris Pratt and all the other people that they
Yeah.
keep saying should attach to that project, I think once he's gone, I think that should be it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It should be a long time before that character gets rebooted. But we have, like you said, we have Wakanda Forever, and they chose
Mhm.
not to recast.
Yeah.
Which I respect. But I wonder what he would have said about that. You know what I mean? If he
Yeah.
would, the strength of that character and the meaning and the background that the importance of that character to not be going on in their world anymore. You know what I mean? Just because he unfortunately passed away.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they replaced William Hurt with Harrison Ford of all people
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
General Ross. I thought that was kind of strange. You know, you do one without the other. I don't know. Just my own take on it.
No, yeah.
Yeah, we discuss that sort of thing all the time. So, so talk about growing up. You grew up where? Your IMDb says outside of Chicago. You had
Hmm.
mentioned something else as well.
No, yeah. So I grew up outside of Chicago. I ended up going to high school in a different place, but it grew up like, I mean, depending on what part of the city we're talking, but like, let's say Rogers Park is probably the most close that I can think of, and it's about 15-minute drive, depending on traffic. Um, yeah, and it was just I grew up in like a town that nobody knows the name of, but I'm also near a major city, so it's an interesting experience
Yeah.
because everybody knows what Chicago is, nobody knows what Glenview is.
Right.
Yeah, so only handful of other Jewish kids. Certainly, nobody talks about the queer thing. And who knows what it's like now? Maybe I'd go to elementary school and there'd be a bunch of other kids like me. But yeah, I was just like a little tomboy and very aware that that was like gonna be weird at some point. And yeah, and it just sort of, I think it definitely shaped a lot of my journey.
And then you went to high school in
Virginia, I went to
Virginia.
Northern Virginia, DC area. Um, my family just was like going through a lot and moving around in terms of like work and different things with my parents, and all my brothers were at college, and it was just like, yeah, man, you need some stability. And when like your parents split, like the kind of the best thing you can do is get out of the house. So thank God I had some like cool, honestly, just like therapists to be like, yeah, you things are bad, you should leave. And your parents can like support it. I think the privilege part there is financially I had the capacity to do that.
Mhm.
I had a cousin that lived in DC if I needed anything, and I got to start over my sophomore year and make up some of the flunking I did when things were really bad, and it worked out very well for me. So, and I had a blast.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Awesome. Excellent. All right. So anything you want to talk about now that I kind of hit you a bunch of questions?
Yeah, and you say the one thing that's been really interesting about the experience of being on a kid show has been that like I kind of okay, so I understand and expect um that just like I'm gonna get some like pushback from certain types of people. Um, an interesting part of it is that that really highlights how much of an act of like quote unquote like transgressiveness, even though it's like really not, kind of existing in these spaces is, which has been really interesting. The reason I'm thinking about it is I had this like really weird experience this week. So I've always, since Spider-Man, every now and then, really few and far between, like some hateful comments here and there. Very like you're mentally ill, and it's like, well, yeah, but like I promise it's not related. Like yes, I am, and I could, and like sometimes it's a lot, but like it's also like so not related, um and I got just this week, it really bummed me. It got me like riled up, but like, I won't bum everybody out. But like the interesting thing was, it really made me realize how attached we are to our fans. That's the like positive part of it. Because I just like, I don't mind people saying that. Sometimes I like low key think it's like very funny. Like the things that people say are like so absurd and stupid that I'm like, okay, you guys are just being silly at this point. Like it
Yeah.
does feel like a bit. Um, but someone like responded to a fan and I was like, no. But it was like the most I was like, there is something really community, there's something very much like a community when you have people who go to bat for your show and make TikToks and tweets and fan art, um, where you're like, yeah, and I want to respect you too. And I think that it's just taught me a lot about like these aren't going to be like our friends. There's a lot of them, and a lot of them are kids, and a lot of them are from all different places, and but there's like sort of like a mutual respect where you really want to protect these people, and it made me have a real appreciation for the other actors that I've always looked up to, and especially the ones whose faces you don't see, who are behind the animation. And
Mhm.
it made me really appreciate like the value of the art they make, because yeah, they have to take a lot of vitriol, and they just kind of like smile and wave. And I'm happy to like that doesn't cost me anything, nor does it really bother me at all. It's just that I was like, you can't do that. You can't. The one thing I can't abide is commenting. You shouldn't do it anyway, but certainly don't respond to comments
Yeah.
on an actor's post who does a kid show, because a lot of those are going to be kids. And
Right.
like, you can do a lot of things, and I will just be like, sure, fine. But that's not one of them. But instead of it bumming everybody out, hopefully, I think the reason I wanted to bring it up is it like just really taught me how valuable the relationship between an artist and a person who likes their art is, even if it's like sometimes a little parasocial or not, you never meet often, which is I think maybe for the best. But because in our show in Dead End, that's like such a point is like sometimes don't meet your heroes, because they're people and sometimes they're gonna act like how people do, which is
Right.
selfish. But um, but yeah, that I just really it really made me grateful more than anything. It made me mad and then it made me grateful. That like I was like, it's cool that our fans are crying about our show and it's cool that I care that they're like taken care of, that's just like how making art should be.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everybody. It just means you have to like honor them as a human being.
Right.
Like nothing riles me up more than people being like, ugh, the fans. It's like, well, come on, you know. So yeah, I was just gonna say I'm very grateful and feeling very lucky for the love our show has gotten. Um, it's the thing I'm the most proud of in my whole life is getting to be part of it and trusted with such a like cool character. Um, it's such a like old thing, just like a monster of the week is such an old concept and we got to do it in like new and interesting ways. And we got to do it on like a massive streaming platform.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's changing my life still. So I feel incredibly grateful and it really inspires me to like make my own stuff. So I feel very lucky right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah.
That's a nice positive note. Actually, a good thank you to the fans because where would we be without the fans, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just making shows for ourselves and watching them on our own phones.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean. So Zach, I want to thank you for
Yeah.
chatting with me today. It was fantastic. I think you're awesome, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more Paranormal Park, Dead End Paranormal Park. I want everybody to go out there and check it out on Netflix, seasons 1 and 2. Make sure you watch them and look for Zach in the future. Hopefully, maybe make another appearance in the Marvel universe. You never know. Hopefully, but definitely check it out. Keep an eye on him because you're gonna be going places, man. I like it. I like the stuff that I hear you talking about, the stuff you're gonna be writing, things like that. Horror is a big thing. Love the horror shows. My guys over there at the Three Geeky Dads podcast are gonna love to hear that. They're big horror fans. So fantastic. So thank you very much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll chat again soon. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right, man.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you. Have a good one. All right, everybody. That was Zach Barrick from Dead End Paranormal Park. Please make sure you check that out on Netflix and see this young man. He's an incredible person, super nice guy, and I think he's gonna be doing a lot. And it's a really fun show. Like I said, I did get to check it out once I knew I was gonna be doing the interview and meeting Zach. I got to dig in more and watched the entire first season. Now I'm gonna go back and watch season 2. It is funny. It's really funny. If you like those type of shows, like the Rick and Morty's and different things like that, they have like sort of a weird and paranormal bent to them. It's super funny. You have to check it out. So as always, we are Entertainment Rants. I want to thank you guys for listening. Again, thank you to Zach. And check us out online, entertainmentrants.com. Check us out on social media at Entertainment Rants. I'm going to be posting links to the shows that Zach was talking about, things that he's done, and hopefully his podcast. I'm going to find that as well and post a link on there for you guys. So, as always, guys, thank you very much. Please drop us a line on Apple Podcasts for reviews if you can. Write us at engageentertainmentrants.com. We'll be checking out with you guys soon. We have our Halloween episode of Halloween coming up. It's going to be a special drop on Monday. We're also going to be recording, my wife and I are going to be recording a review of Kinky Boots playing at the Bill Haney Music Theater in Beverly, Mass. We're going to see that on Wednesday, October 26th, which is actually today. And then we're going to drop in a review on that tomorrow morning on Thursday, October 27th. So we'll see you guys soon. You know what you guys got to go out there and do? Just keep on ranting, everybody.
Go.